All right, hello and welcome to another developer interview with the Nintendo Jump podcast. My name, as you know, is Daryl. Today I'm joined by Kevin, and we're also joined by a very special guest, Andy Schatz, the lead developer, owner, CEO, founder of Pocketwatch Games, and developer of the recent Switch game, Monaco, What's Yours Is Mine. Hey, Andy, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here on this very special episode. I feel like we should be doing some sort of I don't know, high school drug education or something like that, or teen pregnancy thing. It's a very special episode after all.
I mean, it is a very special episode. So yeah, we're gonna have we're gonna start this with "The More You Know" right off the bat. I'm gonna start singing "I'm So Excited" at some point in the episode. So
perfect.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we're super glad to have you on. Monaco just came to Switch, so hey, timely and topical. But I mean, Kevin, you love this game, so I'm going to let you kind of have the floor.
Thanks. Yeah, as y'all may or may not know, I've played Monaco since its inception back in 2013. I love the Thief Heist genre, always been a fan, and I was looking for a game that would fit that bill, and Monaco with Yours Is Mine fit perfectly. Definitely fun playing with friends or even solo as well. But I guess to start off, for anyone who hasn't played it, can you describe Monaco What's Yours Is Mine?
Sure. So it's a top-down game where that I like to describe as like Ocean's 11 meets Pac-Man.
Nice.
So
yes.
You're like running around in these top-down environments. And the game has this visibility mechanic where the things that you can see show up in like full color, and the things you can't see render like their blueprints.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stealth game, but it's not. It's like an action stealth game. If you describe it as a stealth game, and people expect Metal Gear Solid or Splinter Cell or something like that, and then you start playing the game and you realize, oh no, this game is just as much about failure as it is about success. So you're being chased and it's like Benny Hill in there. And then you get around a corner and you can hide in a closet and kind of reset things, and you aren't punished for that. So you can also play cooperatively, and co-op is what the game is probably best known for. So people can play different characters. So one person might play the gentleman, who is like the master of disguise. Another person is the hacker. Another person plays the redhead, and she distracts guards by like wiggling her hips at them. Or the the cleaner is like the violent guy that uses chloroform to knock guards out. The locksmith gets through doors faster, that kind of thing. So the game plays can vary very wildly between like very careful, very tense, and then extremely wild all at the same time. Because someone gets seen by a guard and then everything goes to hell. So it's like there's always that moment where you're like cursing the one guy who brought the gun to the heist that was supposed to be perfectly silent, So yeah, it's a stealth game that can go crazy. It's a stealth game where things are supposed to go crazy. Really fun with friends. And it's got a cool story in it too. So
yeah. So like you were saying, I mean, you've got a lot of different influences here. It doesn't really play like a Splinter Cell or Metal Gear game so much. Can you talk about some of the influences that you had actually had for the game? Like what actually kind of went into this?
Yeah, so originally this was a long time ago when I first sort of came up with the concept for the game. But it was when I was playing the Hitman game, I think 2 generations prior on consoles.
Oh, nice.
And I realized that the mini-map or the map on Hitman, where you could see the guard movements on the map, was a lot of times more informative than the actual view of the game world itself, right? So like that map would allow you to kind of see behind walls and see where guards were moving around the environment. And I kind of wanted to just play that game. I wanted to just move around on the mini map itself, to try and avoid the guards and hide behind doors and things like that. So that was one of the original influences. That combined with like the original Gauntlet.
Oh man.
There we go.
And then as far as controls go, the controls are ultra simple. You control pretty much everything just with the analog stick. and then very occasionally you push a trigger or you pull a trigger in order to use like your whatever special ability you have equipped. And so everything is timer based. So if you want to go through a door that's locked, you push against the door, and depending upon your character's particular skill set, you go through it in a certain amount of time. And everything sort of operates with that tension of time versus skills. And so that the simplicity of those controls actually comes from the original Geometry Wars on the Xbox 360.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it
Ooh,
was.
there we go. Yeah.
Where everything is just analog sticks, and then occasionally you have pardon my French, but you have an oh shit button. And that was the inspiration for the controls on Monaco. I wanted to have it be like everything controlled just with the analog sticks, but then add in an oh shit button.
I loved Geometry Wars so much. I never actually owned an Xbox or 360 originally, but my friends did, and I would go over to their house and play that game like nonstop. That makes a lot of sense, actually, and I wouldn't have put that together.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite. As a designer, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I would think. I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so simple and pure, but you can really get into what's called flow, or into the zone basically when you're playing the game. Maybe better than any game I can remember playing.
So you talked about a stealth game that can go crazy. You talked about how there's like this tension with time. When you were starting on the game, did you know exactly what you wanted it to be, or was it more fluid? I think you might have alluded to it a bit.
Yeah, it was a long process to Monaco. I came up with the concept of Monaco when I was working at my last AAA job before I went indie. I went indie in 2005.
Ooh,
a long time ago.
Wow,
dang, that is.
Yeah, I've been running my business since then. And so I came up with this concept when I was working at my previous job in 2000. So it would have been like 2004 when I came up with the concept. But I originally envisioned it as this like 3D world where you build your environment, but then you go in and you sneak in with friends and you have skills and stuff like that. Kind of all of the same core concepts, but I hadn't really totally fleshed out the whole thing. And then, I've made some other games as an indie, and then eventually I pulled this old concept out and wanted to try and prototype some version of it, but some version of it that I could do all by myself, so that I wouldn't need like a big team to do. And so I started prototyping this top-down 2D version of it, and it was fun within like a day. So I just kept cranking on it and built it up and built a team up around the game. So started working on it at the end of 2009 and then eventually released it in 2013. That's, so it was a long journey. It came, of course, on Steam and Xbox 360 in 2013. And then this is really the first new platform for the game since then.
Yeah.
So,
and it kind of came out of nowhere too. Like it just all of a sudden, hey, Monaco's on Switch, and everybody's like, wait, what?
Yes.
How did that happen exactly?
Well, I think it's a bit of a mistake on my part to do it that way, but the development of the port was we probably should have started earlier, but we when we got near the end of development on the port, we had a hard time pushing the game through lot check,
Gotcha.
which is like the certification process on Nintendo.
Yeah,
right.
And that kept pushing out our release date. And my original plan was I was actually planning on doing the announcement of the game, basically not announce it until it was out, and then I got cold feet on that. And so I decided to announce that it was coming out like a week before it came out,
right,
or a few weeks before it came out, something like that. It's the Switch, the eShop is a tough marketplace right now. There's so much coming out every day. And it's tough to break through the noise. So I kind of wanted to not announce the game until shortly before it was out, to try and capitalize on any awareness or attention that the port announcement would get. and turn that into actual sales.
Yeah, for sure. So what has the reception been like? I mean, obviously the reviews for the original were incredible. The reviews are still incredible. I mean, everybody loves the game. Have you seen that? Have you seen it be successful for you?
No, it hasn't.
Oh no.
Like I said, the eShop is a tough place right now, and there's like tons of games being released every day, and then the if you're not getting specific promotion from Nintendo right now on the eShop, it's very, very difficult to break through the noise. And you'll see that even on the best sellers list, it's mostly people that have dropped their game price to 99 cents for some short amount of time in order to get their game on that.
And that's awful
chart.
too, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very, very difficult marketplace right now. The Switch has done so well, but they don't have really the discoverability tools on the eShop to sort of spread the success around. It tends to, I think the success tends to go to a small number of very big winners, and more power to them, but it is just a very, very difficult marketplace right now.
And that seems like a really big challenge, just being able to find success in the eShop. I mean, yeah, like you said, there's so many games out there. It's like, you're facing all this competition. But speaking of challenges, like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you made Monaco in the first place? Like,
oh boy. Well, I mean, it's been so long, right? I started on it a decade ago.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah.
Actually more than a decade ago. October of 2009 was when I started working on it.
Yeah.
And then challenges with the game. I mean, so many. Luckily, I guess I'll rephrase the question and say what wasn't a challenge. Well, if there was anything that was surprisingly not a challenge, coming up with the designs and the characters and the story and the levels and all of that. Of course it was a challenge. There were times when I was challenged by it, but everything just kind of flowed, when you're really in that state when things are going well and you're just highly creative. That was always true of Monaco during all of development. The challenges tended to be kind of external things, like what platform do we put the game on? We were about to sign the game with Sony to put it on their platform, and then literally the day I got the contract in my email, the hack, the PSN, there's a major PSN hack in the last generation that kind of scared everyone, and that was literally the day I was going to sign to put the game on there instead of Xbox. And so I decided to back off on that. Things like that. Basically everything that was kind of outside of the game was a challenge on that one. And that's not always been true for all of my games, but for Monaco it was. It was just the development, the creative aspects of development were never a challenge. They were just like, it was so easy to design it. In part because like no one's really done it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of its kind.
People have made Payday, both Payday and Hotline Miami came out just before Monaco did, but most of my creative development happened a long time before those two games were out. So I was operating in an environment where no one had made a heist game and no one was making top-down games. So I was like, it was just a total designer's playground, because there's so much potential there. And yet no one had done it. So it was really easy to come up with something fresh and new and thematic and fun, because it was such untrodden ground at the time.
Well, back when you went, I mean, this, but back when you went indie, I mean, that was in the extremely early days of indie. I'm talking like Cave Story had come out in 2004, right. and that was like one of the first ones that really lit the world on fire, right? So I mean, you were kind of operating in just this brand new workspace, kind of, as it were. I mean, how have you mentioned especially the top-down games, of which now there's a ton of them. How have you seen kind of the landscape shift from that time to now in the past decade?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, it's even more than a decade, right? So it's like I've been in indie for
2005,
for 15 years now. Will be 15 years next month. Yeah, there's been really major changes. I went indie at what I would describe as really the birth of the modern indie scene. And there are people that were indie before me, so I'm sure they would disagree. That's pretty, it's pretty Andy-centric of me to say that, but it feels this way.
That's okay. You're on our podcast, so just say whatever you want.
Right?
All good.
And that was the reason that started. The reason that era was kind of the birth of the modern scene was when digital distribution had first started, but it was all for casual games at the time. It was on like Yahoo Games and Big Fish and stuff like that. And that's where all the distribution took place. So there was this big crossover between, people were sort of doing this casual game rush. And you had to like keep your download size under 15 megabytes and things like that. But there was space to do some kind of weird stuff at the time. And so people started experimenting with it. And then the consoles came along, and the Xbox 360 had a really healthy indie environment on XBLA and XBLA IG.
Yeah.
And Steam started to rise at the same time. And then after that, there was Facebook and iPhone and all of that stuff. And so we've gone through all these sort of trends, but the really big ones were, the casual game market was when digital distribution started, and then that moved over to a more core gamer market. And that's kind of where we've been with all these other offshoots with mobile and Facebook and VR and stuff like that being offshoots off of a ecosystem that has largely crystallized since I would say probably since 2013 or so, because that's when the explosion of content on Steam happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Monaco came out kind of just before the explosion of games on Steam, and was able to take advantage of the high demand but low supply situation that we were in at that moment. And nowadays, of course, there's a zillion games, and there's also a zillion gamers that would have $1 zillion that they want to spend.
Yeah.
And so there's way more money in it now. And there are more people that are successful, but probably a lower percentage of people that are successful, just because we now have orders of magnitude more people trying to make games. So it was always a challenging, risky place to be, because it wasn't clear whether or not it was even a thing. But it's challenging and risky in different ways now. I think the same thing holds true, and that is to make a game that's successful, you have to make a game that is either better or unique or some combination of both. And way back in the day, it was enough to just, in 2006, you could just say, I made an indie game and it was good.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's enough to be unique, because all indie games were bad.
And the world
so
went,
you make
"Whoa."
a good indie game. Yeah, exactly. Right. And now there's like a zillion good indie games. So you have to be unique in different ways. And not only that, but the metric of good keeps going up, because good, it doesn't just mean good, it means better. Can you make something that people recognize that's better than what they've seen before? Or can you make something that people don't recognize that they discover they actually want? And so those two things are still true. It's just, you have to kind of figure out that riddle in different ways now.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking about Monaco, which is the game that released on Switch. We are a Nintendo focused podcast. Hey, but since then you have been still developing other games. So specifically, your most recent going game right now is Tooth and Tail, right?
Right. That came out on PS4 and Steam and GOG and in 2017.
Yeah,
So
and
2 years ago.
it got, I mean, it got incredible critical reception as well, and I hear a lot of people talking about it too. Is that a game that you would also be looking at maybe porting over to Switch at this point, or are you kind of comfortable with where it is?
I've definitely thought about it. I'd love it on Switch, and I know that prior to launch, Nintendo would have really liked to have it on Switch. I hate to say it, but with the performance of Monaco being what it is, I doubt that I'm going to be doing any sort of straightforward ports of games. That we'll just have to see what I do next, I suspect, as to whether or not it'll end up on the Switch.
Well,
yeah.
So speaking of next, like what other projects can we look forward to from Pocketwatch Games?
So I've been I actually spent about 1.5 years on a project that I canceled not that long ago, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but if something's not good, you don't want to waste more time on it. So that kind of reset things. Right now, I kind of reset things, and I went back to prototyping mode, and right now I'm working on something I'm getting to be really passionate about. It's really cool. It's I would describe it as Sim Earth but fun. If any of you have ever played the original Sim Earth, you'd know it's trash. It's trash. It's a terrible game.
It's interesting.
It's a terrible game that should be good, and everyone wants a game like that, but no one's really ever done it, and I'm determined to be the one to do it. Just like with Tooth and Tail, I was determined to be the one to make an RTS that could really be played on a console controller and feel like it was native to that.
Yeah, that's
platform.
Awesome.
Nice. I wanted to take a similar challenge here, where I'm like, no one has ever been able to do this Earth sim, evolution sim game and make it fun and cool. And the closest anyone ever got was Sim Earth, and then Spore, which is also
right
kind of trash.
Oh yeah.
And like there have been attempts that kind of nibble around the edges of it. There's certainly attempts at making evolution based games, but they never really strike a chord for me. They never feel like a game. So I'm pretty determined to nail it. And I'm actually pretty deep in on I'm starting with the climate simulation, and I'm pretty deep in on it. And I have what is, I think, probably the most complex climate simulation ever done in a game by far.
Oh, wow.
That is like, it's like really, really deep, but also really accessible. And it's so cool watching, like, I make small changes to my planet, and all of a sudden my ice caps start melting, and it's really cool seeing,
Nice.
That current come wrap around the continent, and you move the plate tectonics around, and it's like, or you erupt a volcano, and it changes the dynamics of the entire global environment. And it's super cool. And then on top of that, animals and plant life and all that. I'm still super, super early on it. I actually stream development almost every day on Twitch.
Ooh, nice.
So if anyone wants to come and watch me work on it, now it does involve a lot of science and programming and me scratching my head. But if you don't mind me plugging my Twitch channel.
No, please do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Twitch.tv/Pocketwatch is the Twitch channel. Pocketwatch. And come and watch me stream almost every day.
Yeah, I will absolutely do that, and we'll.
Me too.
I gotta say, so that sounds utterly fascinating, and also like an absolutely gigantic project for a one-person studio. I mean, do you just hate free time or something like that?
No, that's the thing. Like when people, like I said, do something unique or do something better. And here's the thing. The only attempts at it have been so bad that better isn't that hard.
Gotcha.
I haven't heard that one yet.
If you want to make the next, the next great first person shooter, like you're gonna have being better than the great first person shooters out there requires a tremendous amount of effort. Sim games are still, it's still such a, there's still so few sim games. I'm not saying that I'm willing to make something bad just because bad is better than
right.
awful.
No. But it feels like sim games are kind of stuck in the 90s almost.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at what, like, RimWorld is one of the most successful sim games of all time at this point. And it's great. It's really, really great. But imagine if the number of developers that were working on first-person shooters were to work on sim games, where we'd be at in terms of depth and production values at this point. We'd probably be in an entirely different universe of sim games. Maybe it's just that they're hard to make. Maybe they're hard for teams to make. I don't know exactly what it is. It's not like they don't sell well. They certainly do. Mm-hmm. But the big studios just aren't drawn to sim games and strategy games very much. Maybe the market really is a lot smaller. But yeah, it's the sort of thing where I'm like, I can create this entire simulation, and it doesn't require. I will say that there's some things that are hard about it. Like, most people don't really understand climate science and earth science. That sort of thing. It's not something where we have a huge background as gamers, right? If you want to go make a first person shooter, you at least have the background of having played 1,000 of them before.
Right.
Yeah.
And trying to build a game that is about, like, how the earth operates. Now, I'm not trying to build a game that, like, feels like something you play on a museum kiosk by any stretch of the imagination. I want it to be a game that, like, no more sort of sciencey than Civilization is a history game.
Right.
But at the same time, everything about Civilization really is based on historical concepts and historical figures and all that. And I think that the more that they do there, the more it lends itself, there's the more connection we have to it. And maybe another angle on it is Kerbal Space Program really does use real science,
and it's a fantastic game too.
Right?
Yeah, they mix it up with a bunch of silliness at the same time. And so, again, I'm not trying to make something that you play on a museum kiosk, but I think that probably the percentage of developers that really understand the earth science is probably pretty low.
Well, I got to say, just personally, I wish you the absolute best luck with doing that, because that game sounds amazing to me. It really does.
Awesome.
I actually think it would be an important game, given, in the same way that Civilization, it may not be a history game, but you can learn a lot from Civilization.
Right.
It kind of feels like that, where you could actually be helping people come to a better realization on various impacts to our planet, which is among the most important things that anything could do. So yeah, I seriously, I hope that project goes extremely well. We'll definitely follow you.
Thanks.
Please keep us in the loop on it.
Yeah, same here. I just want to add one thing. I really appreciate and respect, like, your hustle and drive, because, like, you talk about making a game like Monaco that, like, pretty much no one has ever done before, and now you're tackling, a climate simulator. Like, man, that, like, you're like the OG, one of the OGs of indie games, and it's like, it gets me pretty excited, like, just thinking about it, because then, when I think about indie games, like, a lot of times, those are the things that shape my interest in the games, and yeah, it's just great for you to talk about those things, because I personally, for me, I don't really think about climate simulators as much, or in that kind of era, but man, like, that's wow.
Oh,
I would
dude.
say.
I used to play the heck out of this little rocket simulator. People eat that stuff up. They do. I know people who are addicted to Civilization. It's got a huge, huge audience.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, like SimCity is probably my target in terms of how I want it to feel, in terms of sort of how the complexity and how fun it is. But then you got to mix in the, like, Kerbal Space Program aspect, that it's like, well, we're not talking about city management. We're talking about science in its own right. But I do making evolving a sentient creature, or making essentially the the life the Earth version of a megalopolis is kind of the goal of the game. So yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, it sounds incredible.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
I mean that. It sounds utterly incredible.
Thanks.
Thanks. So first of all, jumping back into Monaco for just a little bit. First of all, we are very, very excited that the game is actually on Switch. So thank you for putting it out. It's among the best, most fun co-op games I've ever played. So it's just great. Who is your favorite character to play as?
I have a hard time. I like playing as the pickpocket just because I like listening to the cute little monkey.
Yeah.
If you are really like, the easiest character is the gentleman. So if you really struggle on a level, then you definitely go with the gentleman. And other than that, yeah, I think I probably just got to go with the pickpocket. I might go with the hacker because I really like getting the little viruses are also like little pets. It's kind of like it's like the warlock hunter dichotomy where the pickpocket is kind of the hunter and the hacker's kind of the warlock. So I'm a pet. I'm a pet player. I like playing with pets. So those are probably my favorites.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the hacker personally.
I like them all. It's
of course someone always likes them all.
Okay. What games are you currently playing, or what are your favorite games to play, either in the office or with your friends, or whenever you actually do get the time to play games when you're not creating world-breaking simulators?
I'm actually playing Return of the Obra Dinn on Switch right now.
Oh man, very nice.
There we go.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaking amazing. My daughter, my 4-year-old daughter always wants me to turn on Breath of the Wild to play with her. So I play that a fair amount. I just recently broke down and said, God damn it, I'll play Undertale fine. And so I'm playing Undertale right now. And I'm like, it pisses me off because I'm like, this is so charming and so bad at the same time, but I got to keep going because it's so damn charming.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a game that's like, I don't like it, but I love it. So I'm playing through it.
Love hate.
All right.
So I guess that's what I'm playing right now.
I completely
and I
agree.
just finished Untitled Goose Game.
Ooh.
Oh man, awesome game.
I played that one with my 4-year-old. That's like the perfect game to play with your 4-year-old daughter because like being a naughty goose is like the absolute like ideal life form for a 4-year-old.
All right.
So, if you woke up tomorrow and your life had a new camera angle, what would it be and why?
A new camera angle. Oh my god, you're gonna make me want to make dirty jokes here.
Oh.
I mean, if that's where you go.
I'm down to hear it.
I hate to say that was the first thing that came to mind. Now I can't get it out of my head, so yeah, I'm not going to answer that question.
All right.
You can leave it in the interview, but I'm not going to answer it.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so a question that we actually do need an answer on in this interview. Yeah. So, we all know that video games make us worse people. They make us violent.
Yes.
They kill our brain cells, everything like that. So I don't know if you heard, but earlier today, a German castle, it was a vault heist, actually, and like hundreds of priceless artifacts. So what do you think Monaco's involvement with the German castle vault heist was today?
Well, I am positive that the thieves used the editor in Monaco to model the vault and test out their plans. So it's definitely Monaco is what they used in order to make sure that they could get away with it. Mm-hmm. I only know this because in thanks, they went and bought 2 million copies of Monaco from me yesterday.
Hey,
so
everything has a bright side, right?
Right.
No, that's awesome. So yeah, Andy, thanks so much for coming on the show. Obviously, we want to, follow you. We love Monaco. We will continue supporting you out there. Where can people find you?
A few different places. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Andy Schatz, ANDYSCHATZ. You can also find the company account at Pocketwatch G if you want just information about the games rather than development. You can also find us on Discord at discord.gg/Pocketwatch. Pretty active Discord, largely for Tooth and Tail, but also Monaco. And then come watch me develop my next game on Twitch at twitch.tv/Pocketwatch.
Sweet.
Yeah, we will definitely do that and keep an eye out. I said, please keep us updated with new developments and such. Otherwise, we'll just be over here playing your game. So, hey, thanks again so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And we will keep an eye on you.
All right. Thanks a lot.